Hey, Mike, what do Kelly Slater and PT have in common?
I don't know. They're both world champs?
Nope, they both own Endless Summer box set.
Oh my God, rad. You guys, you can get it too. The link's in the show notes.
Foot out, choke food. 100 racks on a surf, dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Food. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. 100 foot out.
Hey everybody, welcome to the QuiverCast, where we chat with surfers from all around the world, from all walks of life, and we get their story. Find us at www.thequivercast.com. I am Mike, your host. Let's get into the show. Hello, everybody. This is Mike here with the QuiverCast, and I got a super special guest all the way from Australia. I got Serena Brooke. How are you doing, Serena?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Fabulous. Fabulous.
That's good. Yeah, it's good here. We're just coming into summer, so that's always a good time of the year.
Do you like summer?
Yeah, I do. I much prefer the heat compared to freezing, that's for sure, even though where I live doesn't get super cold. But yeah, I definitely like the warm.
The air. What's the water temp? And where are you exactly in Australia?
So I'm like Noosa Heads, which is Queensland, so it's on the east coast of Australia.
Yeah.
Water temp's like 20, 23 degrees, 24 degrees at the moment. It's pretty warm. It's just started to really warm up in the last week or so.
And are you surfing a lot right now, or how's the surfing going?
Yeah. I'm surfing when I can. You know, I've got 9-year-old twin girls.
Yes.
So between them and working, doing a bit of surf coaching, I do a bit of palliative care nursing, and then just everyday life, which is busy for everybody. Yeah, I just get in the water whenever I can. I'm surfing. Yeah, I'm surfing at least 4 or 5 times a week.
Cool. That's a lot. I mean, that's enough. Yeah. Are your daughter surfing?
They can surf, but like. One of them's really scared of sharks. I don't know why. I'm just like, it's fine. You're not going to get eaten by a shark. Like, you got bigger things to worry about. You die in a car crash before that. But yeah, no, they can. Like, Scarlett, my one daughter, is very hypo, so she'll just like go along the wave and do a Mickey flip. I'm like, can you just stand there and stop like jumping off and doing silly stuff? They can stand up and go along, but they're not like. They're into like art, and Scarlett plays a violin, and they love like swimming and sports and stuff, but they don't have the passion that I had for it, obviously. And I'm not one of those soccer mums that's going to force them to surf because I surf, but I think that definitely like summertime, they're a lot more interested in it. You know, when it's cold in winter, they're not really, but I think this summer, they'll probably get into it a lot more.
And you said they're 9, right? They're young? They're young.
Yeah, they're 9. Well, they're turning 10 in January, so yeah, they're 2013 babies.
When did you start surfing? At what age?
I didn't start surfing until I was 14.
Wow.
Yeah, nowadays standards is really late.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the kids that I'm coaching started when they were like 3. I'm kind of happy I'm happy that I started a bit later because I just feel like there's so much. Like, I coach kids. I coach the Australian junior teams, and, I do the high performance coaching, and there's so much pressure on kids with the competitions now that they don't really get to, a lot of them just enjoy that fun time with your friends. Like, I really enjoyed that learning process and fun time with your friends, and not the pressure of, I've got to make heats and I've got to get a sponsor and I've got to get these points and whatever. I don't know. Like, I felt like that on tour. Like, it's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, but I feel like these kids nowadays are just pushed from the time they're so young that I'm kind of happy I didn't have to go through any of that. And I just started surfing at 14, and within a year I was sort of traveling around doing school surfing, Aussie titles and stuff. Sort of picked it up really quickly. Okay,
so you were 14. Do you think that helped your passion for surfing because you're just a little bit older than most, maybe?
Well, back then that was when people, I'm about to turn 47 in January, and back then that was normal. Like, people started surfing around then. People weren't surfing when they were 3. They'd go, they're in grade 5 or 6, 7, get them aboard. Like, it's different to how it is now. But I grew up. I only started surfing. I surfed as soon as I moved to the beach. I grew up in the country, and we had a waterfall and a property, and I was always in the water as a kid, but it was more like in waterfalls and stuff like that. And
Yeah, like
and then we moved to the beach. Yes, and I go straight into the water at the beach. If I had lived at the beach earlier, I probably would have started earlier. But yeah, that just was the way it worked out for me.
and you do surf coaching, right?
Yeah, I do surf coaching, just part-time,
Yeah.
sort of selected stuff, and like the junior and sort of elite kids and junior stuff.
Do you think
No way.
some of the kids are getting pushed a little too early and hard, or what are your thoughts on that?
Definitely, I think the young kids are getting pushed too hard. I see a lot of young kids get pushed so hard to get up early and surf, and they burn out by the time they're 12, 13. They're like, I have kids tell me that are at the elite camps, I don't even like contests. I'm only here because my parents are making me do it. Like that's pretty common. Yeah, it's a lot of them that are just being ridden really hard with it, and they're a lot of the kids that'll just sort of go off onto other things at 15. They just, if they even get to 15 before sort of throwing it in, they just want to have fun with their friends and be a kid, and that's the part of life now that kids don't get to be kids anymore. I feel like it's so much pressure and so different to when I grew up as a kid. Even our schooling, like the kids have to be. They've made grade 7 high school for here, and grade 7 used to be primary school for me. And my daughters are in grade 5 next year, and they're like, we don't want to go to high school. We don't want to go to grade 7 because there's not a playground. Why do they take the playground away when you get to grade 7? I said, that's a good question. I don't know. And she's like, yeah, everyone just sits around on their dumb phones. You don't do anything. There's no playground. I want to run around and go on the playground. Why do they have to take it away because I've got in grade 7 and I've turned, 11, 12, whatever, it's just, they're not really getting to be kids much anymore. I feel like kids it's a different deal to when I grew up.
That's interesting. That's a whole different topic. You're probably right though. Do you see kids in the lineup when you're surfing, let's say when you're just going to get wet and catch a couple waves, that don't surf contests, just like regular Groms?
Yeah, I do. And they're always having usually a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And they're not worried about, who's done what and if they've done a better air or they've done this or that. They're just kind of out there goofing around and laughing and having fun.
Okay. Yeah. You started at 14 and contests came on pretty quickly for you?
Yeah, I started at 14 and started just doing I joined a board riders, my local board riders, Win and See. I started just doing contests with them, like little club contests, and basically just started doing school surfing events, and from there just straight into traveling and doing contests.
And did you enjoy the contest then? Or
I did.
What did you feel?
I loved them. Even I'd get stressed from contests, but I loved competing, and I knew when I was 15 that I want to do the pro tour and that's it. Really? I was into it. Yeah. And I went to a Wendy Botha surf camp. She came to Noosa and did a surf camp when I was a kid, when I was 15. And she told me about Jeffreys Bay and all these places. And she sent me a postcard when she was on tour, actually. She was world champ at the time. Yeah. And she sent me a postcard. I still have it. And
that's so
it
cool.
was saying, this is Jeffreys Bay and you'll get to come here one day and everything. And I was just like, I'm going to go to Jeffreys Bay. I'm going to be a pro surfer. There's no plan B. Right. That's all. That's what I wanted to do, and I just made it happen. And
how did you make it happen?
I sort of just dedicated myself to training and contests, and then when I quit school, getting a sponsor, and just started doing. Obviously, you'd go into the trials to get to the main event back then. There was no QS, so. My first WCT event I won, I started from the trials. I was in Hossegor and I surfed through all the trials, and then I got to go against the girls that were seeded into the quarterfinals. That's how hard it was to break in back then. Yeah. And I ended up winning the event, and kind of good back then because you could go in the trials and it was hard, but if you were good enough, you could get through and make the main event and actually knock out the people that were at the top. It's kind of like what a wild card is now, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did you think of the competition at that point? And what kind of did that give you more motivation to keep going?
Oh, like that wasn't my first
Oh,
contest.
your
That
first
was
win.
Yeah,
First
like that
win.
was my first
Gotcha.
win.
Okay.
So I got Rookie of the Year in my first
Yes,
year. So I
I knew
did
that.
quite
Yeah.
well. And then 1995 was my first year on tour, and I think I went to Japan. I didn't do all the events.
Yeah.
Went to Japan and a couple of other ones, surfed through the trials. And then 1996 was, like the year that I started winning my first WCT events and stuff.
Okay.
No, I loved it. I was totally into it at that point. And I was sponsored, and I was like, yep, this is what I'm doing.
And what was your attitude like? Was your attitude the same as the other pro ladies, or did you come in with like a different kind of attitude? Does that make sense?
I definitely had a different kind of attitude.
Yeah.
I was a real optimist. A lot of them were very tainted. And, like maybe rightfully so, with like sponsorships and different things, and then what the girls had to put up with. And, even when I first got on tour, like the girls had to put up with a lot. But I definitely had a very optimistic kind of fun-loving, happy-go-lucky, fresh attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely helped my cause. And I didn't have anyone that I didn't get on with. I just stayed with anyone on tour. It was fine. Like I was friends with everyone. I didn't have beefs. I didn't get involved in bitching or crapping or, just stuff, fighting with people, not like, drama. I just had no drama because I just was friends with everyone.
Why do you think you got along so well? And did that attitude stay the whole time you were on tour? I guess it's a 2-part question.
So I grew up in a family. I'm one of 6 girls. So for me, just sort of thinking on the spot and negotiating different personalities. And for me, I just felt grateful and happy to be where I was. I wasn't, everything was new and exciting. And definitely towards the very end of my career, all the way until I finished the tour, I didn't have any issues with anyone. It was just, it's just the kind of person I am. I don't waste time and energy on drama. If someone's got a problem, that's fine. And they can come and, come talk to me about it. But yeah, I didn't have any bad beats with anyone the whole time I was on tour. It was, people probably had problems with me because there was a lot of jealousy and stuff like that. But I just was like, that's cool. They can say that. That's their problem. It's not mine. That's none of my business what they think of me. If they're bummed at me for, what I'm getting sponsored or whatever, like there's always that stuff in the men and the women where people are, not happy with or jealous or whatever. But I didn't, none of that stuff. I don't take stuff personally so much. So it was just, I don't think I would have been able to do the tour and had the longevity that I had. And, I got Rookie of the Year in 1995 and I finished in 2009. And, most of that was because I was able to just not react and get involved in any, too much drama or anything. I just had a good time. I just always had.
It was just for fun. I mean, you were literally
it was
just having fun.
Like I definitely wanted a world title, but at the same time, and I definitely, like there was times where it wasn't fun and I was super stressed out. Like, but my stress didn't come from people; it came from the competition and the results and the pressure I put on myself. And trying to win a world title and getting runner up to the world title twice, and just like rankings and that sort of pressure for me was the hardest part of the tour. And, flying, the whole other side of the world and you're losing your first heat and then you're just like bummed. And it's tough. You got to like, really sort of try to not let just the results affect your whole life and your happiness of being, even though you so want it and you're so dedicated to it. There has to be a give and take where you're like, look, I've got to brush this off because I've got to go another contest in a week or two and I can't be carrying this loss. And, you know. So
I have a couple questions. One is, you travel, let's say halfway across the world, you're in Europe or you're in California or wherever.
Brazil, yeah. Wherever.
You lose the first round or two early on.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of ahead to the next event, or are you going, well, I'm going to take this as a vacation. I might go to Disneyland or I might do whatever, go to Paris.
I did both.
Both?
I'd either had a bit of a base in Dana Point.
Okay.
For 5 years on tour because my boyfriend at the time lived there. And so I'd either, depending on where I was in the world, if I was, in Africa or Japan or Tahiti, wherever I was, I'd sort of just look at, okay, reassess, like, can I change my flights? Will I stay? Where's the next event? Oh, if I could go and change my flight and it worked out that I could go and start preparing early and getting a warm-up at the next event, then I would definitely do that. Or if I could skip home for a few days, or like, just, it all sort of depended. Or if there was times I'd be like, oh, I got a few weeks, I'm just going to do a side trip to Mexico and free surf. Or a lot of the times my sponsors would have me on a boat trip, or there was not a lot of downtime, but I definitely tried to do and see other things always. Like I always wanted to explore and see other things. I didn't want to just sit at the contest site,
Go and seeing new things, or kind of exploring the area. Do you think that helped with keeping a positive attitude, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. Like,
okay.
I've always really enjoyed watching how other people live and looking at, just going, wow, what if this was me? Like, I think, like, when I was in Brazil one year, I think I lost early, and me and Steph Gilmore went to the favelas in Brazil with, a couple of locals, and we gave some boards away, and, just stuff like that, just like going, oh my God, look in here and look how they're living, and going up into the houses in there and just doing stuff like that. And, right amongst it, or like I'd do side trips to Peru with a few of the girls, and we went to orphanages, and I had like Serena Brooke days in Jacksonville and Huntington, and I was always doing something. So definitely really liked looking at other, like, I knew surfing and contests was just one aspect of life.
Okay.
That it was, I never got really caught up in the bubble. Like, there's such a bubble when you're on tour, everywhere you go, oh, wow, the pro surfer's in town, there's an opening party, there's a closing party, everyone wants to give you free stuff, everyone you're going to trade shows, your sponsors have got you doing signings. Like, it's such a bubble, and it's not a realistic world, and that's why I liked to go and ground myself and just see what else was going on, and places and things that had nothing to do with surfing sometimes, just sort of have a look at that.
Okay. You said sometimes you would want to go home. Did you feel like you just needed a break, or?
Yeah, definitely. Like, we would get burnt out. Like, sometimes you'd been on the road for a few months, and like, oh, I just want to go and sleep in my bed and drive my car and surf my home break, or see my family or anything. There's definitely times, like, and a lot of that would correlate with how well you were doing on tour. Like, if you were in a really good place and you're getting really good contest results, and or things were going well for you, then it kind of didn't bother you as much. But like I was saying, like, if you'd fly to the other side of the world and lose in your first hit, you'd be like, oh, I just want to go home and drown in my sorrows and just sleep in my bed. And, like, it's sort of tough, like that I used to really find it hard if I lost early in a contest to hang around and watch the contest. Like, I didn't even want to be there. I'd just be like, I just want to be out of this environment. I want to be out of here, because it was just like salt on my wound. I was just like, I don't want to sit here and watch this semi-final, because I could have got through this heat or whatever. Like, you're sitting there watching it going, this is dumb. Or a lot of times you'd lose back then on tour because you'd surfed in such shit surf. And then a lot of times I lost in a heat and they'd cancel the contest straight after. We're cancelling the round. It's so bad. It's like, fuck, why didn't you guys do that before? Like, and so there's all those different kind of emotions and things you had to deal with on tour, and just try to keep your head about yourself. Like, as much as it's great and it's good and you get treated special, there's also a lot of, like, internal struggles and battles with being on the road all the time, and pressure of competing,
And back then, did you have a coach? And probably not like they do today, I'm guessing.
No way. Like, I had a coach, but I think he only ever came, like, travel to, like, one of my events. I had Ross Phillips, and
okay.
Yeah, he came to Tahiti. He may have come to one event on the Gold Coast, but it was definitely different. Yeah. No coach compared to, like, how there is now. And everything now is so different. You would just show up in France and they'd always give away your accommodation because you're bloody, English speaking, and they'd be like, no, we gave away your accommodation. We're sleeping in the car in the forest in Hossegor, in storms, and just like,
no way.
Oh yeah, always. That was just, and that was the thing about the tour back then. It was like, you had to
kind of gritty.
Yeah, but you built resilience through adversity, and you made shit happen, and you had adventures, and you had stories, and you experienced stuff. But now it's just like, well, they get to the event, they got the coach, they got the physio. They got that, you know, they don't have any of that character building stuff. It's more just like get there, perfect setup, perfect contest site, perfect everything, and there's no like they don't have to get through anything apart from like, oh, I lost in my heat. You know, they still have to deal with that, but it was so multifaceted back then. But you know, you just got thrown in the deep end and you had to work it out. But I kind of liked that. It was an adventure, and it built my character as a person.
Okay. Like you had to find your own air flight. Oh, you probably had to find your own food. You probably had to find all these things that they're getting catered to nowadays.
Oh yeah, everything. You booked your flights.
Wow.
You got your food. You went to the shops. You worked out what things said in different languages, and you thought you were going to stay at a you know, like a like I remember one year we'd just get like there'd be like 5 or 6 of us and we'd hire a little jelly bean car and stack like 12 boards on the roof and try and drive from like the event in France all the way through Spain up to Portugal for the next CT event, you know, and crazy stuff would go on. And you know, no one could speak really well the language, you know. There was just so many stories, so many things happen like this. You could just nuts what would used to go on would never happen now.
Do you have any stories you want to tell?
Oh, there's so many. Depends on which topic. Like on that trip when we drove up, we were going we couldn't even speak like barely any Spanish, and we were trying to find somewhere to stay, and we went to we saw a sign that said motel, and it had a picture of a dog and a cat. Anyway, we were there trying to stay there, and we're doing like sign language, going sleep, like with our hands, like sleeping. And then they just laughed us off the deck, and they're pointing at the dog. So it was like a pet motel. Yeah. But they had the word motel, and we're all like there at the door with our bags trying to go in and check in. And they're like, no, this is a dog and cat motel. We didn't know that. And then like we ended up going to the local pub because we had nowhere to sleep, and we met some random person, and they went, oh, I know of this lady that, you know, she like rents rooms out, and it was just like a maze of a house. It was all dark, and basically she had like a half a leg with this big foot, and went out and got drunk, and the big foot kept coming and kicking on our door when we were being noisy, and it just went on and on. Like there's so many different, that was just, you know, just stuff like that all the time would happen.
That, I mean, I can see how that can turn you to be like negative towards the thing, but it sounds fun also, especially if you're young. Like, you were pretty young.
We stayed in like, that trip was like super adventurous. We had like crazy stuff happen, but really fun things happen at the same time, which we never would have had if we just flew in and got picked up and taken out of a hotel like they do now. And that's the thing. Right. It's just like every trip was just like these mad adventures. How
do you think you would do on tour if you were treated the way the pros are treated today? You think you would have did better, or how do you think?
I don't know, because I probably would have been the same, because you don't know any different. You know, it's only what you know, sure. And so I definitely feel like now there's definitely not the fun aspect that we all had. Like there was you know, we'd always get thrown into different circumstances, like the whole group of us on tour, and now it's like people don't even talk to people on tour, or they don't like each other, or they don't, you know, like we didn't even have a choice. It's like you got to talk to them because you're all just stuck in different places in the world. We all had to most of the time count on people, like, hey, like, what am I going to do? I'm sleep. Can I come and sleep on your floor? Like my accommodation got given away, or like we always just made, you know, we'd try to help each other out, you know, like I definitely did. I had sponsors, and I'd let them come and stay at my accommodation if I had a sponsor, and be like, you know, like that type of thing. But yeah, it's a whole nother world to today, that's for sure.
And then you're talking about sponsors, you know, for the parties before and after the event. But what about like signing autographs and all that? Was that fun? Not fun?
Yeah. Like that was fun. It was for me, like I never looked at that as fun. It was more that it was like a duty, and you had to go and do that as part of the, you know, your contracts with your sponsors. You had to do X amount of signings a year. And
job.
So that part for me, I was just like, it was like you know, it was a bit tedious, but it was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to do it because that's who's paying me. So I'm doing that because that's my job, you know. I never looked at it like, oh, great, I got autograph signing, I actually found them a total pain, and I'd try to get out of them. But at the same time, I would just like fulfill my contractual duties.
Yeah, your obligation.
I mean, more so like when I was sponsored by Bud Light, I rode for them for 8 years, and a lot of ours was just like
a long time.
Guest bartending and all that. So it was just a giant party, most of it. So it was a different type of thing. But I definitely worked with my sponsors, and I did everything I could to be loyal to them and keep them happy, because they were the ones. I appreciated being paid and getting sent on trips, and the whole deal was pretty amazing.
You said so the long sponsorship with Bud Light, Fear and Alcohol. Did you like to party? Were you one of the party?
I was. I definitely liked to party, but I definitely also would just be like, I've had enough. Like, I just, a couple of times I got kicked out of my own promo. I had to leave because we're just like doing stuff that you could do in the pubs in Australia, but over there it was so seriously in Huntington. Like, I think I was doing handstands or something in there with Fred and Benji, and they were like kicking me out, and I was like, this is my promo, and they're like, you're out. Like, it was the group of people that we're with too. There was like Benji Weatherly, Fred Patasha, Sean Moody, and I was the only girl, and it was just pretty funny crew of people, and we'd play games and do like guest bartending games. You'd go behind the bar, and obviously there was 2 of you at a time, and just be like, okay, you got to drink whatever drink that we make, and you'd just be putting everything, I don't even know what it was, in a drink. There's yours, and it was. And we'd go on those cruise ships. They'd rent the cruise ships for us and go to the Bahamas, and we'd go to 50 Cent concerts on private islands.
Wow.
And we had Sting do a concert for us with just in a small group, and we'd go to the trade shows, and it was madness. We were just all the baseball games and tours, and it was a whole nother tour aside from the tour. It was definitely like pretty rad.
So what I'm hearing is during the pro years, you live. On one hand, you had to find your own accommodations. You were sleeping in the car or so forth. And the other side of it, you're treated like a rock star. You're going
but more so at the start,
and having a great time.
The worst parts was the first couple of years on tour, because a lot changed in that time I was on tour. 13 years. Like, when I first went on tour, we didn't even have women's board shorts. Like, there was only the men's rashies, and the men's board shorts is what you'd wear, and like down your knees, when everyone was wearing the really long shorts.
Never thought about that.
So, and then like the Roxy thing, they made the board shorts, and I rode for Rusty, and then Rusty made women's board shorts, and then the whole Blue Crush era in the 90s was just booming for surfing. In Japan, I had a Japanese sponsor for wetsuits. A lot of it changed, and there was definitely still adventures and times and stuff that went on, but probably the first 5 years was definitely more. The first 4 years on tour was probably more like battling it out and crazy stuff, but it went on like till the end. Like, you'd just always be thrown into different situations. But there was definitely an aspect of it with, depending on like for me, because of my sponsors and that type of thing that I was doing, and I had mainstream sponsors. So I had Ford trucks in the state, and I had Budweiser, and I had Vans and Rusty, and so it was definitely always stuff going on. And then they'd have those random events like the OP boat trips that we went on. I did both those, and surfer poles, and there was just so much going on at that time. My first year on tour, I think they had 18 WCT events. Like, it was just you'd have 3 in Australia, then you'd have 2 in Japan, then you'd have Africa, then you'd have Portugal, then you'd have Brazil, then you'd have America, then you'd have just like Cloud Break, then Tahiti, like we had Chopu. There was just so many events, so much going on.
How did you stay focused, especially when you're surfing like Tahiti, when it's going to be kind of a heavier wave? As opposed to Huntington, like, you got to probably, I'm thinking, more focused.
Definitely, like, for me, even like surfing bigger waves, because I grew up on the Sunshine Coast where it doesn't get huge. And my first years, like, it was different back then. Like, to qualify, doing the QSs and that, even like when they brought in the QSs or like the events, you had to surf sunset on like a 7'10" board. And I remember when I had no idea about surfing waves like that, and I just went and stayed in Hawaii for months at a time, and and made myself surf it, even if I was terrified, and I learned how to surf those type of waves and just charged. And people would be like, at the start, I'd stand up on a wave at sunset and just get blown off the back, the 10-foot wave, and people are like, what are you doing? You got to paddle halfway down the face before you stand up. You're standing up too early, because you get that lift and that feeling like, yep, I'm on it, and you stand up, and then you just like either going over falls or getting blown off the back, and just things like that. You just have to work that stuff out on the go, Yeah. So I just, would travel and try to push myself and surf bigger waves, or I'd always be trying to surf waves like that there was on tour. So if we're doing Tahiti, I'd be trying to surf like a barreling left somewhere, and back to basics.
Were you like paddling like on a big sunset for the first time? Were you literally fearing for your life, or were you?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it was super scary. Like, I remember we had like because we always had 3 events in Hawaii. We'd have Haleiwa sunset, and in the later years, I mean, we even had events around the other side as well. We had a CT around that other side as well. I was scared. I was really scared. Like, I got injured really badly at sunset one year. I pretty much drowned, and my teeth got smashed out, and I got 30 stitches under my chin and sort of floated in. And
no way.
It was like Hedgie and Neil Ridgway from Rip Curl that actually pulled me in and sort of helped me that time. But yeah, and I got injured pretty bad at Tahiti too, but you just, you just push yourself, and it was, for sure, it was scary. Like, all those waves were scary, but you just, the more you surf, the more comfortable you got. And, I definitely probably was charging harder even in my heats, because I was just like, I want to make my heat, like, I'm not going to think about it, just go. There's a jet ski there if you start drowning. Whereas free surfing, you're like, too bad. But yeah.
With all the major sponsors, the Fords, and you said like Bud Light and all that, how did you become so marketable? Why did they sponsor you?
Well, definitely personality and attitude. Like, before I got sponsored by Bud Light, they flew me out to St. Louis, and I think they were contemplating like Shane Doran or a couple other people, and I got a meeting with them and went to St. Louis and just sat there with this like giant, board meeting, and I was just like this surfer in there, and they were all trying to break into surfing, and they were like, well, this is what we've got planned, and they'd had, probably paid someone $100,000 to come up with some concepts, and I'm like, well, that looks like crap. Like, that, you're not going to get into it. That looks kooky. Like, no, that's not what you need to be doing. And I don't know, I just had a meeting with them and talked to them all and was honest with them and just myself. And then they were like, we really like you. You're great. Yeah, we want her on the team. And so then they sponsored me after that. And I don't know, I didn't care too much. I just was like, I'll be myself. That worked out really well for me. I didn't try to be anyone that I wasn't. I'm pretty easy to get along with person, and I definitely was able to go and speak to my sponsors and find out what they wanted and what I wanted. And if it was a match, then it worked. Obviously, I had the blonde hair and whatever. I don't have blue eyes, but I had the blonde hair. And a lot of people be like, oh, you just got sponsors because of how you look or whatever. But I was like, it's not just that. It's how you carry yourself and your personality, and when they meet you and they speak to you, and they, it's a bit of both.
And your honesty, it sounds like. You're honest.
Definitely honest. I was excited. A lot of people that would have sponsors would just ditch them or not even show up for promos or signings, or just do like, I never did any of that. I always was really loyal to my sponsors and definitely tried my hardest to always, have my stickers on. And, I got the cover one year of Surfing Girl, and I didn't have my Vans sticker on, or my Angel eyewear sticker, or whatever it was. Like, I got in trouble, and I was bummed about that, because I think Aaron Chang was like hiding in the bushes, and it had been raining in Hawaii, and I got a brand new rusty board, and I just went, oh, there's no photographers. I got to run out and catch 3 waves. Ran out, and someone had a camera and caught me doing a layback, and it was on the cover. And I think it was the first time my sponsors were kind of bummed at me, like, hey, you didn't have your stickers on. And I was like, it was raining when I paddled out. There was no one on the beach. I don't know where that guy came from, but the sun must have popped out for 5 minutes and he snapped that shot. And then, yeah, I definitely, I had a really good relationship with my sponsors, and I was really, grateful for everything I got from them as well.
Besides not having the stickers on that cover shot, what were your thoughts? Were you stoked on the cover
I was
shot?
super stoked. I was always really happy every time I got, it hurt me more than them. Like, I didn't get paid. Like, I lost a lot of money because I had obviously, contracts and incentives for having cover shots and all that too. I was really bummed. I was just like, couldn't you have photoshopped on my sponsors or something? Because I lost a lot of money from that. But yeah, no, like
that's funny.
I was bummed for sure that happened.
Yeah. But
stoked to get the cover shot, sure. And I work with my sponsors a lot. Like I when I did my charity events in Huntington and in Jacksonville Beach in Florida over there, like I did the Serena Brooke days, and I wrote those into my contracts when I renew my contracts that they would donate money to my charity. Okay. They sponsored my events. Yeah, it was all, I worked pretty closely with them doing other stuff, donating to non-profit stuff in the States, and I sort of did other things. I wasn't just a pro surfer that only looked at that. I sort of looked at doing some sort of other sort of philanthropy stuff, and just it was a bit of a two-way thing. Like I helped them and got them involved with stuff, and obviously they helped me as well. So
okay, let's talk about that charities you did. Why did you do them, and how did you get involved in that?
I spent a lot of time around Huntington and everything. Just when my manager was in the States, and Dan Jackson, and he was a really good guy, and he helped me sort of work it out with my sponsors that we started sort of small, and we did like a little contest. It's actually funny because Courtney Conolog, who's on tour now, it was her first contest she ever did. Yes. And there's photos of me and her. Yeah, my Serena Brooke day, and she won the really, she was only about, I don't know, 10 or 11 or something. She won the event, and she was like, this is my first ever event. And she posted a picture recently of that, of a photo of us together, and she was at my event. But no one was doing it. Like, no one was really giving back and doing women's events or doing anything back then. And so I started doing that. Then a couple other people started doing it on tour, and I was like, well, good. The more the better, I'm not threatened by that. That's great. The more the merrier. So I just ended up doing that, and I wanted to give back to the community. And like I said, in America, I was there a lot. Had all American sponsors, and we would just donate to like women's shelters and abused kids and like at-risk youth and all that type of stuff. So it was great. Everyone had an amazing time, and it was good. It was work, but it was good. Like work putting it all together, So
was it you did the work personally?
Like my manager did it, my sponsors did, and I sort of worked with them as well. We all sort of coordinated it all. Cool. And I would do it around the time, like when the US Open was on, I'd do it the week either before or after that. I think it was before. So I just sort of had it all tied in. And then Jacksonville, Florida, I can't remember how that worked out over there. Everyone was asking me to do one on the East Coast of the States. Yeah, so I did. So I did those. And Ford Trucks was over there, and they were sponsoring the days and helped coordinate it and everything. So.
And then you did one like a couple months ago at home, right? The Make a Wave challenge?
Yeah. That wasn't like a contest, but that was just surf. It's just surf everywhere.
What's that about?
It's just to help raise money for like Surf Aid, the charity, and they have like in the mental wise, like I've done so many boat trips over there and got like probably the best waves of my life and stuff over there, and just they have like clean water and just malaria and medication and like women's health programs and stuff. So you just surf every day in September. People will sponsor you to surf every day, and you just I think they raised about $700,000 this year.
Nice.
So everyone can do it, and I just sort of was in it. They rang me up and asked me if I'd be an ambassador for it, and I said sure. Just try to get
that's rad.
Try to get some more the word out there and get more people to be part of it.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, and was that fun? Did you when you surfed every day, or was it like
just wasn't? Yeah, surf's not been the best, but it was okay. Did it
could be problematic.
Did it as much as you can. You could go out and catch one wave, but yeah.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. You did it. That's super fun. Okay, so going back years when you were younger, how was the family support for your surfing? Did you have it?
Not
The
really. Like my
support?
mom didn't know anything about surfing, and my older sister
Okay.
Christine surfed first for a couple of
Oh,
months,
really?
and
Okay.
we became like really competitive when I was younger. Like she was sponsored by, like I got a sponsor when I was like 15, just from like the local surf shop, and so she got the rival surf shop.
Yeah.
She was sponsored by Free Fluid. She was
Oh,
sponsored by
that's
Free
funny.
Fluid, and I was sponsored by Beach Beat, and we were both in the same club, and like we were pretty competitive. But aside from that, not really. Like I think
Wow.
my mum went to like one contest in my life, and she was watching the wrong person. Yeah, she
Really?
was watching the wrong person. She was watching whoever was in red, and I'm like, Ma. She's like, oh, you did great. I was like, Mum, I was wearing yellow. You're watching the wrong person. She had no
That's
idea
funny.
about surfing, really. She was supportive of it, but she
That's
did,
funny.
there was only Christine that surfed in my family, and my mum had said she tried to surf in Bondi in the really early years, but she said that the boys just gave her
Okay.
such a hard time that she never tried again. But yeah,
Okay.
so I guess guys were pretty nuts back then.
Okay, that's actually a good question. How was being accepted as a female into the surf lineup, especially as being younger? Was there any challenges
Well,
there?
it wasn't too bad for me, to be honest, because I was in my local board riders club. Like I
Okay.
was in Wind and Sea, and they were always really supportive.
Yeah.
I hung out with all the boys, the girls as well. My sister was in it, and there was 2 or 3
Yeah.
other girls in the club. Like the boys were really good to me. Like I was surfing against Joel Parko, like in my younger years, because there wasn't enough girls
Yeah.
in there. So like I hung out with him a lot when I was, when we were pretty young. He was younger than me, a lot younger than me, and we just sort of surfed. And it wasn't a even though there was never really girls out when I paddle out, but it didn't really bother me. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a couple of times when people would say things, but I was just like, whatever, he's jealous or whatever it is, But yeah, like for the most part, definitely the club was really supportive, and I knew all the local guys. Everyone was if you were respectful on the surf, like they would just push you, if anything. Like you should have took off and tried to get barreled on that. Why'd you pull back? Being a wuss or whatever. Like just like if anything, they encouraged me and pushed me. I've never really had any dramas with guys, to be honest, in this surf. A couple of times it was crazy, and like you've got the old dude that's angry, like you should be in the kitchen. What are these stupid girls doing out here? And then
Oh,
like
really?
back in the day, like you're always gonna get the grumpy old guys, like just like look at all the girls out here, and then you're like, look at all the boys out here. Like they just try to make a point, like they're angry dudes, and they're trying to get to their feet or whatever. It's just they're kind of bitter, like they get bitter because some like 12-year-old doesn't air over their head or something. Just but like it's like just go with the times. That's like me when I go surfing now. Everyone that's like 10 is doing alley oops over my head. It's like it's a whole nother generation. I think it's amazing.
A whole nother
generation. Like, well, that's friggin' cool. Like, but
What about female surfers now and the CT and the progression, especially the young ladies coming?
Yeah, well, not even the CT.
On Stab
like
and
I
so
look at the
forth.
girls that aren't on tour.
Yeah, the
like
Stab
I'm looking
girls.
at like the Erin Brooks and Sierra. Just there's so many.
Yeah, crazy.
So many good girls. Yeah, the girls like when I was on tour, like Silvana Lima, I think she's just finished the tour. Sally was on tour when I was on tour. Steph was on tour when I was on tour. There's still girls that were on there when I was doing it. When I finished, they'd been on there for a few years. Like definitely everyone's ripping on tour for sure. That's a given that they're doing really well, one contest, but the free surfing for the girls is pretty nuts now too. Like you've got girls that are just like at your local break that you go out and you're just like, fuck, who's that? I don't even know who that is, but they're ripping. They don't have any stickers. They're not sponsored, but they're killing it. Yeah,
they're having fun too.
So like the level's amazing now, and it's just started so young. Like even like I do the high performance coaching down at Casuarina, and they're just so young. They're like in grade 3 and 4, and they're in there practicing on the ramps to do airs, and just it's pretty amazing where it's gone to. It's nuts, like I don't even know what the future will be like. I do miss seeing, even with the guys, you know, like I miss seeing, you know, you watch all the events and now I just feel like everyone races down the line, races past all the sections, does a huge air and that's the end and go, oh, wow, I got a 10.
Yep.
I miss seeing like someone just going top to bottom, bang, 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 get a tube, do a roundhouse, do an air at the end if you want. But I feel like now it's just like race, boost, huge air, yeah, you made it. But you kind of wasted the whole wave and you didn't do anything else on it. I don't know, like it's a lot. It just gets a bit monotonous now because there's just everyone does an air 360 like they're doing a cutback, you know, like it's pretty nuts. But it's still amazing and it's like really, it's exciting to watch. But I also love watching rail surfing where people are just doing huge big gouge turns and getting barreled and all that as well. Just everything. I like watching everything. You know, I love the airs. I think it'd be good if they just like were doing everything instead of just racing the whole sections now and doing an air and a lot of them.
How much do you watch of the WSL current like on the CT or even the Challenger
I mean, I don't
series?
sit and watch live heats because I just don't have time for that. I usually watch the highlights, to be honest. Or if there's a heat coming up and I've got time and I'm like, oh, yeah, like, you know, Steph or Sally or someone I want to watch is, you know, in there, then I'll watch the heat. But most of the time I'm just catching the replays or you just do the highlights or you can just go and look at the waves and not sit there through all the commentating. It's pretty, you know, interesting these days. So I'd rather just see the highlights.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Some of it grates on my ears. I'm just like, I don't know. Oh, and some of the stuff I hear him say, I'm like, well, that's not even right. But, anyway, whatever. I just, you know, everyone I know just mutes it. So, yeah.
Really?
Oh, they just
music
press
on
the
or
mute
something?
button.
Or what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's interesting. That's funny you said that. Well, they got to fill a lot of time.
Yeah,
I mean, they're there for like 10 hours a day.
For sure. Like that.
I'm not sticking up for them.
And there's definitely people that I won't mute and I'll leave it on because I want to hear some stuff when they get different guests in and stuff. Like definitely. But the few people that are just great on your ears a bit. So you're like, oh, I gotta mute that. You know, I guess probably the same in any sport.
And what do you think about like Steph? Like, did you think when you saw her come on tour that she would be
definitely
who she is today?
Definitely.
And with
like
her accomplishments?
Steph was when I was on tour, Steph was like 14 and when you used to be able to write back into the WSL, she'd be with her friend, Minx, like, we're at your house, we're in your pool, you know, or like whatever. And I'd be like, oh my God, like they were just the grommets, you know. And I saw her surfing from really young. She was surfing snapper and she was sponsored by Rip Curl at the time. And I always knew she was going to be amazing. And I was there when I was on tour, she was coming up and, you know, she'd be staying with Jessie and all the girls and I'd see her every day. I saw her coming up through the QS. You knew she was going to be amazing, you know. We all told her that. I was on tour with her, good friends with her. Went her first world title parties and traveled a lot with her and just, you knew she was going to be amazing. I'm so stoked that she won the 8th world title. Like, I think the day before there was people kind of roasting her going she didn't have a chance and I was keyboard people. And I was like, bullshit, she's fucking got this. I've got a feeling she's going to get it. And she did. And I was stoked for her. She's amazing. She deserves that title, you know. So, like, to be the greatest of all time. Like, she's a very humble, down-to-earth, like, solid human, you know. She's great. Yeah.
With that being said, the day that she won a couple months back, time difference and so forth, did you wake up to find out the news or were you
I wasn't watching it?
Like, how'd that go?
To find out. Yeah.
That's cool.
So, it was pretty nuts. Amazing. It was awesome.
Yeah. Like rivalries back then, it kind of changed when it seems like hearing about you and watching some of the movies and stuff, and even that TV show Rivals or whatever that was on a couple years ago. You guys, were friends with everyone, as you said in the interview earlier, but were there rivalries?
Oh, there was for sure rivalries. Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, Lane and I had a bit of a rivalry when we were, you know, just going for the titles and stuff. You've got to have with the person you're battling the world titles for and stuff. It's kind of like there wasn't any one really particular rivalry. It was just, you know, it was just competitiveness. Like, there definitely was other people that had real kind of rivalries, but I actually just was competitive with, it's, you know, obviously everyone wants to win. I never really wanted to be the person that, like, just trot on everyone and be unethical, just do shit, just do anything to win. I didn't have that in me. I never have.
Okay.
And, a lot of people would tell me that when I was on tour going for titles. They're like, you got to find your inner bitch. You got to be a fucking snake. You got to do this, got to do that. I'm like, man, I just don't have that asshole enough, like where I just want to just be a dick in the water. And like, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Like just obviously you want to win, but some people would do like Lane, self-admittedly, she's like, I would do anything to win. I'll crush you. I would do, she had a walkie-talkie in her back.
That's
she had a
awesome,
walkie-talkie in a wetsuit in Tahiti, and I thought that she was doing mental telepathy with Ken. She had a walkie-talkie strapped to a spring suit at Chopu, and then obviously they found it at Jeffreys Bay. But I was like, that's what I mean. Like some people would do anything to win, and I didn't have that where I would.
Wow.
I just was like, look, for sure I want to win, but it's not my be all end all. It doesn't define me. That's why, I was like, had to work that out. We're like, look, lost a heat, but it can't affect my whole happiness of being and my value and worth as a person because I did shit in these contests, but people would do that. Like they would just be like Lane, when we did rivals, like Lane remembers, I saw her down at the HBC not that long ago and she remembers everything. She's got such a competitive person. Yeah, she was like, remember that time you beat me here and you did, and you won at the gold? I'm like, yeah, whatever, whichever trophy you're talking about, I won, like the Roxy Pro at the Goldie or whatever, but you beat me like a million times. Like I don't, like how do you even remember the ones that you lost because you've won so many, or what does it matter? Like I wouldn't even remember. But yeah, there's people that just that was everything.
That's funny.
Obviously.
Was she one of your friends to travel with?
I stayed with Lane a couple of times, and we were always on boat trips.
Okay.
Together, boat trips. All of us girls stayed on a boat. I think I stayed with her in Brazil one year. Not a lot. I didn't stay with Lane a lot actually, because she was kind of on her own deal, and there was a lot of times when we were, like battling it out for, in the contest, and you just sort of wouldn't stay together. But I never really had a problem with Lane at all. I mean, we're still friends. Lane's Lane. I just accepted her for who she was, like she would say stuff. I'd be like, that's cool. Just say that because you're insecure or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's like, people throw out hooks sometimes and you can either bite it or be like, that's a hook. I'm not going to take it. So, like, it's just being like react or respond, like it's just that type of thing. But yeah, it's cool.
On. Thank you so much, Serena, for coming on the QuiverCast. We're super excited, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
100 foot out, Joe 100 racks on a surf, dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Fu. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. 100 foot out, Joe 100 racks on a surf, dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Fu. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. Your boo on my didgeridoo. They calling me dude, I'm stacking the loot. I'm ripping your chick in the coop. She grabbing a hold of my leggy. They jelly, they get you my weddy. The fridge of Giuseppe, the chain is so heavy, she thinks that I'm charging the Eddie. 100 foot out, Chopu. 100 racks on a surf, dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Fu. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. 100 foot out, Chopu. 100 racks on a surf, dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Fu. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. Surf trap, I'm stacking that money. Four shots, a red Ferrari. He starts to calling me Dundee. Diamonds are surfing McFlurry. She want me to teach her to surf. Splash, I'm pulling up, ripping the verse. I'm leaving these kooks in the hearse. They get moved 100 foot on their head, they get work. 100 foot out, Chopu. 100 racks on a surf, dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Fu. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. 100 foot out, Chopu. 100 racks on a surf, dude. Slippery, big guns like Mark Fu. Trap jumping like a kangaroo. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. You calling me dude, I'm stacking the loot. I'm ripping your chick in the coop. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. You know we don't fuck with no kooks. They calling me dude, I'm stacking the loot. I'm ripping your chick in the coop.
Hey, you guys, Endless Summer box set. This thing is legit. It's authentic. Numbered certificate in it. It has a 5-frame film strip from the original print. You will literally own a piece of history. It has a specially minted bronze medallion. Dude, that thing's sick. Okay, there's so much more here. Go to the show notes. There's a link on there. Go check this piece of history out. This thing's rad. Seriously. Smithsonian American History Museum has it. It took 4 years of research with 3.5 in production, all hand assembled. This thing's rad. So much to this awesome box set. Remastered DVD, sharper images than the original film, but dude, this thing's so sick. Link in the show notes.